Hey guys, welcome to part 3 of this React Apollo GraphQL series. Now, obviously, we're building an application here. It's a very small application, but it's still an app, and I want it to do certain things that don't have anything to do with GraphQL and Apollo. So I hope you can appreciate that. I know that it's added time, it's added overhead to the tutorial, but again, I want to have a product in the end, as I do with most tutorials, rather than just saying, oh, this is how it works, see you later. All right, so there are some things we want to do here, like I want to make each of the titles color-coded. So if it was a failed mission, I want it to be red. If it was successful, I want it to be green. So we're actually going to use a package called class names to be able to do that. So let's jump into VS Code here. I'm going to go to my terminal, and it's very important that you're in your client folder, your React app. Right now I'm in my server, as you can see, so I'm going to cd into client, and I'm going to do npm install class names, and then we might as well install moment, which is to format time, and then the React moment package. We might as well install those as well, so we don't have to worry about it later. And class names, we're going to be using it in the launch item component. Okay, so if we go to launch item JS, and the mission name is right here in the H4. That's where we want to add the class. So let's go ahead and import class names. Okay, I'm going to use camel case here, and then we're going to say from class names, all lowercase. And the way that we do this, okay, it's pretty easy. If you've taken my React course or my MERNStack course, we did this there. Basically, we're going to surround this in a span, the mission name, and we're going to give this span, we're going to say class name equals, and then we're going to set up some curly braces. And in these curly braces, we want to use class names, okay, camel case, and inside here we want to put some curly braces, and we can put a class, a CSS class like text success, which is green in Bootstrap, just basically makes the text green, and we can put a colon and say we want this class to kick in if launch underscore success is true. Okay, and then we'll put a comma and we'll say we want the class text danger, which obviously is red if you've ever used Bootstrap, which I'm sure you have. And then we can say what we want to say if not launch success, then we want it to be text danger. So let's go ahead and save that, and let's see if that works. Okay, and I have my server running in my other tab in my terminal, by the way. Okay, there we go. So now each failed mission is red, so it looks like they had some trouble in the beginning here, and then most of them are green. There's one right there, but we have our color code. Now I do want a little key up at the top, just letting people know that the red means it wasn't successful and the green was successful. So I'm going to create just a very, very simple component called mission key.js. Okay, so this mission key.js is going to be a functional component. I'm going to do RCF tab. I don't know why it keeps doing that. It works sometimes, see, sometimes it doesn't. So mission key, this is going to be very simple. We're going to have a div. I'm actually going to have some margin here. So we're going to do class name, and let's do my3. So margin on the top and bottom. It's just a Bootstrap class. And we're going to have a paragraph with a span, and we need to use wait, what are we doing? Yeah, we'll just put a class of px-3, which is padding on the left and right. And then we want margin right 2, just to push the text over. Basically, this span is going to be a little square with the color. So it's going to have the green color, so we want to use bg-success, which will make the background green. So we want those classes. And there's nothing going to be inside the span tag, so we can take that ending span off. And then we just want to do equals success. Okay, and then I'm going to copy this down. And what we'll do here is just change the BG success to BG danger. And let's say danger. Not danger, it's danger. Fail. All right, and that's it. That's all we need for this very small component. So we'll close that up. and we're going to put that component inside of launches. So let's import it. Mission key. Oops. Mission key from, and we're in mission key. Okay, we're going to go down here right under the H1 and place that right in there. And there's no props or anything. It's just a dumb component. So let's check it out, and there we go. Okay, so that looks good. Now we want to start to work with the launch page. Okay, we want this to go to a single page that has like the rocket info, stuff like that. Well, actually, you know what? Before we do that, let's fix the date, because this date doesn't look too good. So we're going to use moment for that. So this is, remember, launch item. Each one of these is the launch item component. So let's go up here and let's bring in, we'll say import moment from, and it's going to be from React dash moment. And all we need to do is find our date, which is right here, and surround it in moment tags. Okay, now I want to format this a certain way, so we're going to say format, and we're going to set that to, let's do year, 4 digits, month, day, space, hours, and minutes. So if we save that, take a look, and the date looks much better. All right, now we're going to need React Router, so let's install that. Make sure you're in your client. Okay, so we're in the client folder. So let's do npm install react-router-dom. And we're going to go into app.js. Once this is done, okay, so now let's import the router. So I'm going to go under where we brought in Apollo. And let's import browser router as router, and we also want route, and that's going to come from React Router DOM. And let's go down to our render here, and we want to wrap everything in our router except the provider. The provider is the outermost element here. So we want to put in here router here. Okay, and then instead of just plopping launches right in here like that, let's go ahead and put a route, and let's say we want exact path, which is our home route slash, and let's say component is going to be launches. Okay, so if we save that, that should still work or not. What did I do? Put a quote there. Okay, so that works. Now for the launch component, which we haven't created yet, I'm still going to add the route. So let's do, the path is actually going to be /launch, and we want the parameter here to be the flight number. So let's say flight number component is going to be just launch. Okay, and we're going to bring that in up here. I know we didn't create it yet, but we're gonna. So let's say launch from launch. All right, so we'll save that, and it's going to break, or it should. Yeah, it's going to break. So in components, let's create a file called launch.js. Okay, so this is going to be a class-based component, so I'm going to do RCE tab. And from here, just to get this working, let's just do an H1 and say launch and save. And now it should work again. Now this right here is just a regular button. This does nothing. So we need to go into our launch item component and fix that and make it point to the launch page. Okay, so let's go back into launch item. And when we use React Router, I'm sure a lot of you know this, you have to use something called link instead of using like an A tag or something like that. So let's say from React Router DOM, and then down here where we just had this button, we want to change that to a link. So let's get both of those and change those to link with an uppercase L. And instead of, well, not instead of, but we want to add a to attribute here. And this is actually going to have the ID in it as well. So we're going to do curly braces and backticks. And we're going to say we want it to go to /launch/ and then the flight or the flight number. So we can use this syntax here and say flight number. And that should do it. So let's save. Let's go back, and if we click one of these, it brings us to launch/ and then the flight number, and it brings us to the launch component. So now the goal is to fetch that particular launch from GraphQL through our GraphQL Express server. So we can close up launch item, we can close up launches, and we want to work in launch. So let's bring in a couple things up here. We're going to want to bring in GQL. So GQL comes from GraphQL tag -tag. Okay, we want to bring in our query, which comes from React Apollo. And let's bring in link from React Router, because we're going to need that, because I want a back button. And finally, let's bring in class names, because I'm going to use that in here as well. So class names. All right. So let's create our query. We're going to go above the component class, and I'm going to say launch _ query. And remember, we use GQL with backticks. Okay, that's how we make our queries. And we'll call this launch query. Now, this is a little different from launches because it takes in a parameter, an argument, right? It takes in the flight number, and you remember that from our schema. If we look at our schema and we look at launch, okay, this is what we're kind of making a request to. It takes a flight number. So we want to add onto this some parentheses, and we want to do $flight _ number, and we put a type to this. Okay, so we want to do int ! And then we can proceed to put in launch, which also will take some parentheses, and we want to say flight _ number is going to be whatever that $flight _ number is, which we'll actually pass in down here in our query. Okay, now here we want to specify the fields we want. So we want flight number, we want, actually we don't need a comma there, we want mission name, launch year, launch success. Let's see, I don't think we need, well, we'll get the date. Launch date, local, basically getting everything that's available. We want the rocket. Okay, now remember, rocket is it's an object. So we want rocket _ ID, rocket name, and rocket type. So that's our query. Now, just like we did in launches, we're going to need to use query down here. But I want to get the flight number. Remember, the flight number is in the URL. If we look at our route, it's going to be this right here. So the way that we grab this is through our props. So it's basically this.props.match.params.flight number. That's how we can access this. So let's go right in the render above the return. I'm going to say I'm going to use destructuring here to pull the flight number out of the props. I'm sorry, out of the params that are in the props. So it's actually this dot props dot match dot params. Okay, now we're going to get an error if this is not an integer, and it's not right now. It's going to be a string. So what I want to do is take the flight number. That's why I use let, because I'm going to reassign it, and I'm just going to run it through parse int, okay, which will turn it into an integer. So we'll pass in flight number. So that way we have the whatever was in the URL formatted as an int. All right, and then down here we can actually use a fragment here. We don't need a div. Okay, but in order to do that, we have to bring that in up here. And now we want to excuse me, now we want to do our query. So query takes in a prop of query, which is going to be our launch query. All right, so one other thing, since we have an argument, this flight number, we actually have to add on, in addition to query, we need variables. Okay, so we need to say variables, and we want to put two curly braces because this is an object. We want to say flight number like that. All right, now the rest of this is pretty much the same as we did before. We're going to go ahead and open up some curly braces with an arrow function. Okay, and this is going to take in loading, error, and data. Okay, just like before, and I'm going to check for loading. Okay, so if loading, then let's go ahead and return an H4 that just says loading. And if there's an error, then let's just console.log the error. Okay, and then underneath that, what I'm going to do is, let's just return, because again, I just want to test, so I'm just going to return an H1 that says test, and just console log the data just to make sure we're getting it. Okay, so we'll save that, and let's open up our Chrome tools here. Okay, so don't worry about these, just we didn't use link or class names yet, but you can see we're getting an object of launch, and we have all of our data, including the rocket. So we know that the query's working. We're fetching the data from GraphQL. So now we just need to display it. So let's go back, get rid of this console, and we're going to deal with this return. So I want to display, let's see, let's actually do a div. And inside here, let's put an H1. Actually, let's add a class of display -4 and a class of my3. And this H1 is going to have, let's see, it's going to say mission, like mission colon, and then the mission underscore name. But I want mission, the word mission, to be a little darker, so I'm going to wrap this in a span with the class name of text dark. And span. And this is why I love Bootstrap. And a lot of people shit on it, but it allows you to just prototype things very quickly. Like I don't have to worry about going and doing my own CSS to make a dark text or a green or red text and to line things up. And it's very, very handy for prototyping, whether you use it in the final product or not. So that's H1. Let's just save this and see if this is displaying. Mission name is not defined, so let's see, what did I do wrong here? mission name is not defined. That's because I have not pulled it out of the data. So basically, I could do data.launch.mission name. That'll work, right? But I don't want to do that. I don't want to do data.launch. So what I'm going to do is use some destructuring up here. So we'll say const, and let's pull out everything. So we'll pull out mission name, flight number, launch, what was it? Launch year, launch success. And then we want the rocket stuff. Now the rocket is in its own object, so we need to say rocket colon and then another set of curly braces. Let me just save this. Oh, I thought it would fix it. So rocket underscore ID, we want the rocket underscore name and the rocket underscore type. Okay. I'm surprised Prettier isn't fixing this. So we want to just set that equal to data.launch because that's what we're pulling it out of. There we go. All right, so we're just destructuring, just pulling these values out, including the rocket, out of data.launch. So that way we can just use the actual variables. So let's check and see, and that works. All right, so let's see, what are we going to do next? Let's do our launch details. So under the H1, I'm going to put an H4 with the class of MB-3 just to move things down. And we're going to say launch details. And we're going to have a UL. This is going to be a list group. Give it a class name of list group. And let's do li class list dash group dash item. And this is going to be the flight number. So let's give it like a key, flight number. And then the data will be flight number. Okay, and then let's just copy this down. I think, whoops, what did I just do? I go back and forth from Windows to Mac and I get my keys messed up. So let's see, we got flight number. Next we want launch year. Launch year. And then we have launch successful. Now, launch successful. Launch successful, or launch success rather, is a Boolean, right? So we can't just display it. We have to do like a conditional. So I'm just going to do a ternary operator. We're going to just shorthand this by saying launch underscore success. Okay, so if that's true, then we'll display the word yes. Okay, else, then, oops, let's display no. Okay, so let's just save that and see if that actually shows up. It does. Now the no, if it's no, I want it to be red. If it's green, I want it to be yes. So again, we're going to use class names. So I'm just going to wrap this in a span. All right, so we'll say span. Span, and let's add here class name equals class names and pass in some curly braces. So we'll do text success if launch success is true, and we'll do text dash danger if not launch success. So that should do it. We'll save it, and there we go. So you can see that it's red. So now we want to do the rocket details. So let's go right below. So we have our H4, then our UL. Underneath the UL, let's do another H4. And we'll give it a class of MY3. And let's say rocket details. We'll do another UL list group. List group item. So this is going to be the rocket ID. We should just be able to say rocket ID because of our destructuring above. And let's just copy this down 2 more times, and we want the rocket name. And we want the rocket type. There we go. Let's save and let's check it out. Cool. Now, the last thing I want here is a back button, just so we can go back to the home page or back to the listings of launches. So remember, we brought in link from React router. We want to use that. So right under the UL, I'm just going to put an HR, horizontal rule, and let's put in a link tag. Does that not work? So link to and this will just say back. So link to slash, and then let's give this a class name of BTN secondary. So that way we can at least navigate back. Okay, if we want to visit this RATSat mission. Okay, and you can see the yes is green. Good. So that, I mean, that's pretty much it for the app. In the next video, we'll do our deployment to Heroku. But as far as Apollo, you know, that's how you set it up. It's not that difficult. You create your client, your provider. Obviously, you have some kind of GraphQL server to connect to. If you want to learn more about mutations to update stuff on the server, check out the 5-part series that I did. I'll put a link in the description. And then as far as making those mutations from React Apollo, it's really not much different from what we've been doing with queries. So if you want to just go to, let's say, React Apollo mutation, and if you just take a look at the docs here. So basically, remember how we brought in query? To make our query, you want to bring in mutation, and you can make your mutations down here. Okay, and just do whatever it is. With right here, they're adding a to-do, but any kind of add or update or delete or anything like that, you want to use the mutation component. So I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be doing a Udemy course on this stuff soon. It might not be my next course, but I will definitely be doing one where we do full CRUD, we do authentication, all that stuff. I wanted this to be kind of an intro to, you know, using Apollo with React and stuff like that. So that's it, guys. In the next video, we'll go ahead and do a quick deployment.